Hello there. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Good. Super duper. Let me just get this going. So we have been developing a further phase of our research, which in the past was looking at personalization mechanisms for personalized fine-tuning, particularly because value alignment shouldn't just be towards a particular culture or a particular creed or geography. That's a very important start, but it's important that machines are able to take on board our personal preferences, our personal boundaries, and the things that we desire. It should also accommodate different schemas, whether it's the very personal or whether it's a more professional sphere where it should be a little more cautious and a little more formal, for example. So we've been examining ways to do this, and we've been preparing a paper as well. And I'd like to take you through a little bit of our work so far. So in the past cohort of AISC, we have been developing, among other things, this interface, which is our kind of Mark 1 interface that we've been putting together. And in it, it enables one to, for example, specify one's place on the political quadrant, the 4-axis one, which is reasonably well understood by many folks. We also developed a range of administration and backend functions to help to administer this, including deletion and creation of accounts and that kind of thing. The interface also includes a lot of demographic information, so you can specify your region, your gender, your level of education, etc., as far as one feels is comfortable and is likely to make an AI system better able to understand one and kind of where one is coming from. So in this cohort, we were keen to gain some evaluation on this and to hopefully iterate further. We created an unstructured survey where we got a bunch of different users, some of whom had technical knowledge and sort of engineering knowledge related to AI safety, many of whom, which is kind of our target audience, were members of the general public, because we want to create something that is usable and directly useful by the general public, and indeed something that the general public can take value in. They can perceive that it's a benefit to them and that they should therefore use this service and indeed contribute to mapping the milieu of different values out there in the world. We discovered that our initial prototype had some issues. There were, of course, some technical hang-ups, and some of the explicit categorization that we had asked for, some people found tricky. For example, to define their political or their religious viewpoint in a single sentence or statement for them seemed quite challenging. So that was interesting feedback. We also thought that the surveying mechanisms that we used were a little bit academic in flavor and perhaps could use a softer introduction and perhaps a more direct mechanism of understanding that one is indeed successfully influencing a system. So having gained this feedback, we developed a range of research questions that we would like to explore in this research. And although we're still working on some of these, we've made a little bit of progress. So we began to experiment, therefore, with a Mark II, which was based around character sheets, which are a sort of a way of teaching an LLM how to take on a narrative role where it has a given personality, biography, etc. And we wanted to experiment and see if we could use that as a way of creating a sort of a profile of a human being, a real person, and see if the LLM could therefore use that to improve its theory of mind about what that individual person's preferences might look like and how to better accommodate those. So we've been experimenting with something called Silly Tavern, sillytavernai.com, which is a chatbot platform. And we've been creating a kind of a plugin for that to test how we can help people to create a profile that better reflects their own actual preferences. This enabled us to more quickly and easily gather information on people. And our hope as well was that having a character sheet like this would be more directly applicable, because we figured that a lot of different off-the-shelf LLMs, both proprietary and open source, are able to interface with these kinds of mechanisms. However, there are still a few drawbacks or hitches in that it was still a little bit difficult to engage some people. I think especially people who had less patience for writing, or who were maybe obliged to write in a language which wasn't there. And having a clearer use case for users was also deemed to be important. It's a very nice learning experience, and we'd like to take this further and see what we can do more with this character sheet approach. We then also had another idea, which subsequently has sort of been validated, because it turns out that platforms like ChatGPT are now actually experimenting with this as well, is that we could present the user with basically 2 statements and they could choose their preference. And we thought that this would be a fast way of helping people to fine-tune a system to better respond to their preferences in a simpler way, which is perhaps kind of naturalistic. Similarly, we've been trying to work within a little bit of the structure of ChatGPT to kind of expand its user interface a little bit further to better reflect these value alignment processes. And this is our prototype of what it would look like to have, you know, response 1, response 2, either whenever you generate content or indeed whenever you regenerate it, right? You want it regenerated, but rather than simply doing another dice roll, put a little bit of a weight on that towards making it more formal or something like that. So we're hoping that this can be used indeed within value alignment processes and teaching AIs to better respond to our boundaries and to better fit to our expectations. We've also been exploring a bit on representation engineering and the encoding of these values and the influence of models through various vector processes, for example. We have a little bit of experimentation on this as well, with integrating into Llama 2. And we've also been exploring some other methods of representation engineering to try to see if we can elicit vectors which provide happy outputs or thoughtful outputs or more considerate outputs, etc., in the models down the line. And we've also therefore been experimenting with a genetic algorithm which can update the vectors based upon the responses from users. We have a work in progress repo at that URL, and we'll be, of course, expanding that set of code in the coming weeks. We've been writing this up into a paper at some point once we feel as if we've collected the information that we want to. In this phase, we will be, of course, seeking to publish that once we've got a few more evaluations under our belt. That's all from Team EthicsNet in this wonderful cohort of AISC. Thank you very much indeed for all of your interest and support.